Hello, everybody, on a lovely, lovely day here. It's Jim, it's Amadeus, and it's the day after the Yankees had a perfect game from Mr. Jermaine. We were talking about Domingo Jermaine and in the pre-show, Amadeus, and he wouldn't exactly have been the number one thought on most people's minds of getting, a perfect game. I think the Yankees were just hoping to get 6 innings and a win out of it.
Yeah, he's a guy that's been battling injury this year. He's missed quite a few games. He's been starting, came in late into the season, and he wasn't pitching well going into last night. That's for sure. I think he gave up 8 earned runs in his start right before, and had another one where he gave up 6 right before that. So definitely someone who's given up a lot of runs. And there you go. I guess that's what happens when the owners want to put out a AAA team. You get a guy throwing a perfect game who probably shouldn't be throwing a perfect game.
Yeah, and he did it in front of a robust crowd of about 6,000 at the Coliseum last night. And, the funny thing is that now the last one was, I think they said in 2009, that was King Felix. That's not surprising. Felix Hernandez, was at that point in his career was still dealing. But, of course, Don Larson had that 1956 World Series win, which was the only perfect game ever pitched in a World Series. And Larson was a journeyman pitcher. I mean, Larson was at best a 500 pitcher for his career. But on one day, you never know what can happen. Clearly, that day for the Yankees and Mr. Jermaine was last night. So. Good on him, and he goes in the record books. There you go. All right, yesterday, lots of soccer action. Your reflections on what happened last night?
Yeah, it was pretty clear cut last night. I mean, there was a few teams that were big favorites at home. And that's exactly what we saw. We saw Flamengo come out and smash Aucas 4-0, or I don't know. I stopped watching when it was 4-0. But yeah, that didn't really matter for them because Racing Club decided to show up and destroy Nublense 4-0 as well. So Racing Club, all they needed was the win. We talked about it yesterday. They controlled their fate, so they won the group. Flamengo through in second place. Another one, we saw Corinthians with a big 3-0 win at home. They were about a -167, and then the day of, it dropped to around -130. But that just goes to show you, the quality of these Brazilian sides at home going up against a Uruguayan side. It doesn't matter, how good you are in your domestic league. The fact of the matter is, you're playing against weaker teams in your domestic league, and when push comes to shove, the Brazilian teams are monsters in South America.
Absolutely. We were talking yesterday too about the about CONCACAF and what the heck was going to happen, and we were a little jittery on the old U.S. team and say, well, they'll win, but who knows? And they end up being a 6-0 win last night. And
I saw the score was 3-0 in the 18th minute, and I was like, okay. So they started a team today. That's good.
Let's see. 3-0 in the first 18 minutes. I don't think you need to watch the rest of it. That one, I think you can mark off as it's a win down the road. But yeah, 6-0 was the final there. And, you're right. I mean, they decided, I guess, to assert themselves against a far lesser opponent. And, that was the one thing we were concerned about, was not that they could win, just that who was going to play and were they going to, show up? And clearly they showed up.
Yeah, that's all what it's about, right? And clearly I didn't look at the lineup, but they probably didn't even need a strong lineup. But definitely after that draw on the opening night, they probably had a bad taste in their mouth. CONCACAF, newly crowned CONCACAF champions, back-to-back CONCACAF champions. So, say what you want. This USA men's team is very good. So I thought that result against Jamaica was shocking. But then again, Jamaica had an early 3-0 lead. I forget who they played yesterday, but they came out smashing as well. So like I said, this Jamaica team, they got Michael Antonio from West Ham. They got a solid goalie in Blake. Got some other good pieces from the Premier League. I think Jamaica could be a little dangerous in this tournament.
Yeah, they've got what you need to get down in the tournament from a standpoint of depth. I mean, they've got depth, but they've got depth at every position. All of those positions are good players. So,
yeah.
You're not. That's good on them. We'll take a quick look at today's action and what we might be able to see as we get ready to watch CONCACAF tonight. And let's see, we got CONCACAF. We've got Qatar versus Honduras. That one's a little interesting. How Qatar got into play Honduras.
I think Qatar got invited to the tournament, and I don't think it's the first time it's happened to. I think this is They actually invited them, obviously because they hosted the World Cup, but I think this was something where they were in the tournament the last time as well, because they were trying to get good experience for the upcoming World Cup that they knew they were hosting. Yeah. So I think this is kind of like, CONCACAF took them in, kind of like how Copa America decided to take CONCACAF under their wing instead of CONCACAF making their own Copa North America or something, which is a shame, really, because I was actually fun. Like we have the Nations League, fine, and I guess we have this Gold Cup too, which you could count as the Copa America type thing, but like they don't do something like the Europeans do or the South Americans. And even I was looking at the women's soccer, because obviously the women's World Cup is right around the corner now, less than a month away. And even on the women's side, they had the Women's Euro Cup last year. They had the Women's Copa America last year. But again, there's a Nations League, but there's nothing for these North American teams, which I find a shame considering USA and Canada still have, some of the best teams on the planet, yet they're not playing in as many, meaningful competitions as some of these other teams from Europe and South America. And it's a shame, because they should be getting that playing experience. And really, I blame CONCACAF as an organization, right? Because, they could have went and did something for the men's side too, but instead he copped out and was like, oh, well, Copa America will take our 4 best teams. Like that's a cop out. I don't like that at all.
Mm-hmm. Haiti's taking on Mexico in the 10 o'clock game. So the doubleheader today, both games on Fox Sports 1, 7:45 kick. Qatar and Honduras, Haiti and Mexico up at 10 p.m. on Fox Sports 1. So that's
Mexico should win that match.
Yeah.
Qatar and Honduras should be 0-0. So we'll see what happens there.
It's way too early to figure that one out. It's Thursday, so that must mean we've got afternoon baseball. We got the Padres leading the Buccos in Pittsburgh by a score of 3-0 in the top of the 4th inning.
That game finally started. That one was delayed.
Yeah, it was delayed by rain. Tigers Rangers are underway in Dallas, where it's a chilly 105 degrees. I just hope that the Rangers have their coats on. Guardians at the Royals. That game just got underway. It's hot in Kansas City as well in the 90s. The Yankees and the Athletics. They'll be underway at 3:37 this afternoon. First pitch 3:40 this afternoon. It's the Rays finishing up their series with the Diamondbacks out in the desert, and that's a rubber match. So whoever wins this game won the 3-game series. White Sox Angels 4:07 start. That's going to be out at the Big A in Anaheim. 6:10 start tonight. Marlins, Red Sox, Giants, Blue Jays at 7:07. That game's down the street from Amadeus over there in Toronto. Brewers, Mets, that's 7:10. That's at Citi Field. Astros, Cardinals. That game, wild game last night. The Astros came from behind to win 10-7.
Yeah, I had the Astros, and so they did this the other night where they took a 2-0 lead, and then the Cardinals did what they did in England and just scored every run unanswered after that.
Yeah.
And so the same thing happened, right? Top of the first inning, Astros take a 3-0 lead, and I'm like, okay, here we go. Bottom of the first, tied 3-3 again, and I'm like,
boom.
Yeah, I guess we're doing this again. And then they ended up going down 6-3
right
before coming back to win 10-7 or whatever it was.
Yeah, it was it was a wild game. Phillies, Cubs. Speaking of the other half of that duo that went to London and played, the Cubbies are in the friendly confines of Wrigley Field this evening. It's an 8:05 start against the Phillies, and Dodgers are.
It's weird.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's weird because the Cardinals were in such a slump before that England series, and then they ended up splitting it, but won that last game, and obviously they lost last night. But they've been coming out really strong all of a sudden in these games in their first series back from England, where you had the Cubs who went into England super hot,
right?
Lost that first game and just have done nothing since coming back now.
Well, I was watching a little bit of baseball last night, and man, I'll tell you, Paul Goldschmidt is raking. I mean, he every time he looked up, he was on base. And
he's always there for the Cardinals.
Well, he and Arenado. I mean, those were bats that you didn't, that were not clicking on any cylinders, and now they're back. So I guess it's time. Cardinals. I mean, we did say that at the end of the day, it doesn't matter who's in front of that division when it's all over. It's going to be the Cardinals. So I guess they decided to wake up and go, you know what? Maybe we got back from London, and maybe let's just beat up on some of these guys.
Yeah, and they're lucky because they're 10 games under 500, but at least they're not chasing the division leader that's 10 games over 500 because everybody's just muddling around in that division.
Well, that's the problem. If you don't bury these people early, they will come back to haunt you, and that is certainly something the Cardinals is. One last quick thing on baseball. Later this evening, again, it's around a 9:40 start. That's going to be the Dodgers and the 8:40 start. Dodgers and Rockies. That game being played, of course, in Colorado. So that's your scoreboard and your roster of games for tonight. Am I missing anything soccer-wise today?
Oh, we got another day of Copa Libertadores.
Oh, okay. Wasn't on my schedule there. Go ahead.
Yes, we got one more. This is the final 4 matches of the group stage. So we have the early cap is going to be Boca Juniors and Monagas. And then the other game is Colo-Colo versus Deportivo Pereira. So this is a very interesting group because it's very tight right now. I think Boca Juniors leads it with 10 points, but Monagas only has 7, and both Colo-Colo and Deportivo Pereira have 5 points. So, we get one of these situations again where pretty much winner of the Colo-Colo Deportivo match goes not only, gets at least a spot in the top 3 because the third place goes to Sudamericana playoff. But so not only does the winner guarantee themselves a spot, but they have a good chance of taking the second spot and staying in the competition because Boca Juniors is at home to Monagas. I mean, they should win the match. If Monagas loses, it makes it very interesting for Colo-Colo and Deportivo Pereira. But at the same time, Boca Juniors has already clinched the group, and they don't need the points at all. So, this is one where, it's going to be interesting to see which Boca Juniors team shows up, and if they don't show up, then I think the other match is going to be interesting. Colo-Colo and Deportivo Pereira for the start there.
Yeah, it's funny. Boca Juniors probably the one club that most soccer fans in the United States know. Beyond that, they have nothing. They haven't got a club. But Boca Junior has,
Boca Juniors and maybe River Plate if we're talking Argentina.
Yeah, that's a good one. But Boca Juniors, kind of like the birthplace of a number of superstar Brazilians who've gone on to play around the world. So it's it definitely is the launching pad for a number of former superstar players that have gone on. So.
Yeah, and if you look at a lot of these South American teams, like it's the smaller clubs that have the great farm system. Like I was watching the Independiente del Valle match and Argentinos Juniors yesterday, and Maradona came from Argentinos Juniors, and they're a very well-known club, but they're not. I wouldn't put them as one of the best in the league right now, anyway, right? But yeah, a lot of these clubs, you'll hear these famous Brazilian or Argentinian stars. They came from these small clubs in Brazil and Argentina, and then what happens is people see how good they are at 16, and then a European club ends up signing them, and then they come back years later. But yeah, I was watching. There was a few. There was one team I was watching yesterday. Like half their forwards were 18 and 16, and there's definitely some young players. And I think his name was Kevin. Kevin something, but he scored his first continental goal yesterday in the Copa Libertadores, and he's only 18 years old. So this is what I mean. Is like you definitely see a lot of young superstars that you might see in Europe 5 years from now.
Right. Well, Pele came through Boca Juniors.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think. What's the two of the Freds? I don't know how many Freds there are left in Brazilian soccer, but two of them came through Boca Juniors. So yeah, it's been they've been great farm systems, and of course because of the amount of money that they pay in Europe, it's really hard to keep these guys at home.
And that was actually one of the things I heard the commentators talking about yesterday in one of the games is with the going back to the Maradona thing is selling Maradona at that young age maybe wasn't the best thing for the club because you trained this star up and obviously he turned out to be one of the best players in the world.
Right.
But the transfer fee they got for him from Europe, from the European team, was enough to, set them up for the next few years, rebuild the farm system, rebuild the team. So it's a very good thing, even when you lose it. What's the bad thing is when you lose a good player and you don't sell them for a lot. That's where the tragedy comes in.
Sure. And if you think about it, you get the that transfer money you can reinvest in building new talent, and maybe you end up being what in essence is a AAA farm club for for the players in Europe where they make the big money. But there have been some very good situations too, where some of these guys have come and found a spot in the MLS. Same thing from Mexico. There's some good guys who have played on league teams in those places that end up in the MLS because it's a little bit better money than what they're getting, and the exposure is good for them.
Yeah, definitely. I've actually, they were talking about there was a player in one of the games I was watching last night where there was an ex-Charlotte player.
Oh, okay.
They're actually joking about how he's probably happy he's not on Charlotte anymore. So they're one of the worst teams in the MLS. But yeah, absolutely. These guys, they come up And that, again, that's why I think you see, like, a lot of the times we'll see a European or even an MLS team sign a young guy, and everybody gets shocked, like, oh my God, you're signing this kid at 16. You're signing this kid at 18. How good can he be? But if it's a South American kid, odds are they've already had experience playing in these big tournaments, these intercontinental tournaments, and just playing in some of the biggest leagues in South America, obviously being in Brazil and Argentina, the two biggest leagues down there. So definitely that's what I don't think people realize is the South Americans put the kids out at a young age. They know the Europeans are coming for them. So they start them early. They start them at 16. And then all of a sudden, okay, maybe you sell him when he turns 22, 23, but you've had him for 6-7 years now. And
Right.
maybe he wasn't in his prime. He wasn't at his prime yet or fully developed. But you still got to utilize that talent, knowing that it's only inevitable that a bigger club with more money comes and signs the kid eventually.
Well, that works the same way with baseball in the Dominican. I mean, what you'll see is, because there's no international. I mean, you can't sign a kid in the United States until he's 18 years old. Okay, so that would mean high school would be the earliest you could sign him. In the Dominican, there is no age limit, but for the most part, it is held to 15 or 16. But they're not ready to come and play at that age. So they stay in the Dominican. They play in what, in essence, is a baseball academies that they have down there that are run by Major League Baseball teams here in the United States. And so, you get to play in these academies. And of course, not everybody that are playing on this game, those teams, are yet signed. So what you even see there is you see where you signed a 16-year-old kid and they're playing against a guy who didn't get signed, who's like 16 or 17, and he's even better. So they go back and they, sign 2 or 3 more guys. So a lot of those guys, by the time they're 19, have had 4 years of what in essence is organized professional baseball.
Yeah, and all that experience matters, definitely. It definitely has value to it.
Well, look at how many kids are walking onto soccer pitches and baseball fields, at the highest level and performing like they've been there all their lives.
Yeah, exactly. Some players are also just, they're made for what they do. And when you keep practicing it and strive for greatness, then yeah, you're going to be one of the best at what you do. So as long as the motivation's there, absolutely. And you do see it. You see it a lot at a young age.
No, Mbappe, when he went to Paris Saint-Germain, he wasn't very old, was he? It's like in his 19 or 20.
Yeah, he was. I think it was before the age of 19 because he was on the World Cup team,
right,
or the France team that won the World Cup at 19 years old. So he was actually. So he came up through the Monaco Academy, right? But again, Monaco's that kind of team. They run their team like the South American teams. Monaco's not here to win the French league. They're not trying to win Europa or Champions League. They're a team driven to make money. And if you look at some of the transfers they've made, that's all they're about. They buy young players. Either they train them up from the academy or they buy young, good players from smaller teams for 10, 20 million. And then they train them for a few years and end up selling them for 100 million. And that's what we saw with Mbappe. So yeah, Monaco is definitely, they run their team like a business. They're there to make money. And I think they were playing basically. So Mbappe came up through the academy and he was playing for Monaco by the age of 16.
Mm-hmm.
Now PSG is not going to sign him at the age of 16, obviously, and because these bigger clubs don't want young players. They want young players, right? But they don't want them that young. They want them still, closer to the prime age, the lower 20s, because they still have room for improvement. Then you kind of know know the potential of the player in their early 20s. Plus, they also have the experience. It's not like you're getting a guy that's never played in a major league before and is kind of going to be shell shocked like that. But yeah, absolutely. He was playing by 16 for Monaco.
Wow. And it certainly paid off for him. There's no question about that. And the English have that same thing.
There's a player right now on Palmeiras, the best team in Brazil. And you can watch him play Bolivar tonight in the Copa Libertadores. That's the nightcap. But he is their starting striker. His name is Endrick. He's 16 or 18 years old. I forget which one. But he's already signed a pre-contract with Real Madrid in 2024. So this is what I mean. You have this star. He is the goal scorer for Palmeiras. He is their star kid. He's only 16 or 18 years old, and he's already been signed by a European club. But it's a pre-contract. So the European club says, stay in South America, get some more valuable experience because you're on the best team in Brazil, right? You're going to play intercontinental games. So get that experience. And then, when you're a little older in 2024, then we'll take you with our Jude Bellingham and Mbappe and all the other 20-year-olds we're going to sign because we're Real Madrid and everybody wants to come here.
Right. And but the good part about what you're saying here, and by the way, all those games can be seen tonight on beIN Sports, both here in the U.S. and Canada. So if you want to watch them, you can certainly watch them. The situation with regard to young players coming through that system. The other thing that the scouts have told me, both in soccer and in baseball, is that they also want and basketball too. They want the kid not only to develop, as a player, but to physically develop. Because you can run at 16 and 18 up and down the pitch, but you need to know how to pace yourself and train to not overexert, use up all your useful energy in 50 minutes, right? So you're just that, and then as I said, physically and mentally, they want them to get become a little bit more mature to when they get there, that the bright lights of everything that is going to be on them is not necessarily so so intimidating.
Yeah, and that's another great point to make, just because obviously, especially on the men's side, it takes longer for you to grow. You're still growing at that age of 16 and 18 even. You're still, even just with your height, you're still growing. So yeah, definitely you want to wait for them to develop, get into that gym routine where they're training their body as well every day. Because obviously you can't do that as a kid. I know there's ages set up around that. So you want them to be in that groove of already, I'm working out every day. I'm training for what I'm doing. And also, as you said, the mental aspect, definitely, as we know, even though you're considered an adult at 18, it doesn't mean your brain's there with you. So definitely, I can say I'm only 24, and I can say for myself, just over the last few years, that definitely I'm a lot. My mindset has matured just in 2 or 3 years compared to all the way back when I was 18. So absolutely, that's a massive thing.
Well, I have ties that are older than you, so that makes it even more interesting. The thing too, with regard to what we were just talking about with players, is that the mental aspect of it, the physical aspect of it. The other thing is the dietary aspect of it too, because they may want these kids to put on a little weight, because they're light and they don't feel physically. A lot of people do not realize that soccer, that you bump into people that there is a physicality to it.
Yeah, people seem to forget it's a contact sport, right?
Exactly.
You
It's
see
not
you see a
football.
guy touch a guy, and you're like, why isn't that a yellow card?
Like, because if you saw what off the ball what he was doing, you wouldn't even, there'd be a yellow card for everybody. But yeah, I mean, there's a physicality to it, and at that age, even if you're very very talented, you need to have some bulk there and some strength that you're not going to have at 16, and you probably aren't going to have at 18. I mean, it's gonna take you time to build that body into the type of body that you're going to need to physically play in demanding circumstances.
Yeah, definitely. And I like how you brought up the eating habits too, right? Because you don't want to go and sign a kid and then find out they're like DK Metcalf, where like you eat Skittles every day and you look
Right.
like that. Well, you're not going to stay like that forever. So
Right.
enough of the Skittles. It's time to get serious.
Yeah, get rid of the Cheetos. None of that's happening. But I mean, in fairness, these are kids in in circumstances where nutrition is whatever you can get to eat is what you get to eat, and so by getting into an academy like that or to sign a pre-contract, at least gives them a leg up in that regard where they can actually the nutrition is looked out for them by the team, and the meals and all of the other stuff that it takes for them to grow properly. They have that wonderful option, and not everybody obviously has that option. So that's a good thing from the academy standpoint, and one of the reasons they like it. I mean, IMG now runs a high school academy in Florida at Bradenton and out in Arizona, and they have soccer, baseball, basketball. It's a legit high school. It's considered a high school. It's a chartered high school. It's a private school, and kids from all around the world come to the IMG Academy to play tennis, to play football, to play basketball, baseball, and each year they continue to be, one of the top five, producers of college athletes in the world, and it was started, frankly, by Nick Bollettieri, who was legendary tennis coach. Who Nick had at one time beat Sampras, Jimmy Courier, and Andre Agassi, all at the same time, and Monica Seles, all at the same time in his academy in Bradenton. And he was a very big stickler on education and playing and becoming, your best self from the standpoint of not just athletically, but mentally and education wise. And so that theory was purchased by IMG, and they sunk serious cash into making that work, and it obviously has paid off for them. If you look at all of the people that have been through there, Sharapova, who's came through that academy. It's a very interesting way to do it, but here it's new to us in the States, but it's certainly not new in South America or in the Dominican or in the Caribbean countries where baseball and basketball and soccer have adopted those types of academies, and in Europe as well. We just saw Wemby get his contract from San Antonio, and he's down there on the Riverwalk enjoying himself now as the king of San Antonio.
Yeah, and now you know what? I even hear there's a cricket prospect in the next MLB draft.
Yep.
So,
and there are cricket fields coming up, popping up all over the place, and you're thinking, wow, this is just amazing. Okay, let's get into that one. But I don't know. It's tough for me to keep score when you can get 118 runs and the commentators go, well, okay, it scores 118-4, and they're like, well, that 118 isn't going to be enough. And you're like 118-4, and you're,
All right, we'll just see what happens tomorrow. Good night, everybody.
I wonder what the run line is on cricket.
I don't know, but I've seen live money lines when the score is like that, right? Like
Really?
300 to 100 or something, and they still have the other team like favored on the money line because I guess they're that much better, and they know, oh well, if this team's scoring 200, the other one will put up 400, I guess, right? But maybe somebody told this kid like, hey, you could go play in the MLB and finish a game in a day. You're still playing every day, but it's a different game. And so maybe he was like, oh, okay, that's nice. I don't have to play the same game over 5 days.
Right. Well, they now are coming up with the shorter cricket matches. They're 1-day testers is what they've been called. And so that seems to be wonderfully. But look, you got to love any sport that breaks for lunch. I mean, that's my
breaks for lunch, breaks for the All-Star break mid-game.
Yeah. So, you got to like that kind of stuff. But, hey, it is what it is. Let's take one real quick look around the scoreboard before we get out of here today. The Padres still lead the Buccos 4-1, that game being PNC in Pittsburgh. Rangers and Tigers are knotted at a 1 apiece as they must have both scored the first because it's the top of the second.
Oh, okay. 2-1 Tigers.
Well,
I just watched it. I used the sports book.
You refresh faster than mine. Okay.
No. I use the sports book. They got to do it instant, or else I could be making money if they're doing it at ESPN pace.
Right. That's true. I'm on the Major League Baseball side. How silly of me. Guardians and Royals, still no score in that ball game, bottom of the second. Still, plenty of time. If you're in Oakland, to get out and buy that ticket because first pitch is at 3:37 there. Yankees Athletics, you got the Rays and the D-backs at 3:40 as well. You got 4:07 start for the Angels and the Sox. Marlins and the Red Sox 6:10 at Fenway. Giants Blue Jays 7:07 in Toronto. Brewers Mets in New York, that went to 7:10 start. 7:15 Astros Cardinals. 8:05 Phillies Cubs, and 8:40 Dodgers in Colorado for a game against the Rockies. So that catches you up right now. We talked about what we could see tonight. Copa Libertadores. We've got CONCACAF, Qatar and Honduras. Those games 7:45 and 10 p.m. Haiti, Mexico's the nightcap. Both those games are available on FS1. Copa Libertadores is available on BN Sports here in the United States and in Canada. So that gets you up to speed from our side on what's going on. So what can we expect to see if we check out the link, which is your link in the bottom of the show box today?
Yeah, so if you check out the link and go to bigal.com or pickadvisor.com, you will find that I have 6 soccer plays up today, 3 in the Copa Libertadores, 3 in the Copa Sudamericana, including my group stage total of the year in the Copa Sudamericana. And I got 1 baseball play up because I didn't like the card too much.
Well, there you go. I mean, we can't always get what we want, right?
Yeah, some days I like it a lot, and so I give out 4 to 6 baseball plays. Other days I don't like it that much, so I only give out 1 or 2.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's the old saying, some of the best bets you make are the ones you don't. So maybe that's the theory of the case in that regard.
Yep, and you got to look at it like even if you only like 1 or 2 games in a day, it's baseball.
Right.
You're gonna come across another day where you like 8. It'll happen eventually.
It will. It absolutely will. It normally does. All right, everybody. For Jim and Amadeus, you guys have a great day. We'll be back with you tomorrow to set you up for the weekend and all kinds of crazy good stuff coming up on the weekend. So until tomorrow, for me and Amadeus, have a great day, guys.